A trip of a lifetime. That's how students and teachers from two Lethbridge high schools describe the field trip they took to Europe over the Easter break.
One of the things I'm hoping to come out of this trip is to show and have more recognition on all the soldiers that, fought for us and fought for our freedom.
The theme of the trip was war and remembrance. A week before embarking on it, several students and teachers from LCI and Chinook High School met to talk about the upcoming journey.
I'm really, really excited. It's going to be, honestly, a trip of a lifetime.
It became very real this week for me. I think it'll be a very neat experience to put in perspective what really happened. I mean, you can watch it in movies and in documentaries, but to really see it in real life just changes your whole mindset on what happened, I think.
For social studies teachers Craig Finley and David Fletcher, the trip was the culmination of 18 months of planning and fundraising by approximately 100 students, teachers, and chaperones.
We are going to northern France and Belgium, going to places like Ypres in Belgium, Passchendaele in Belgium, going to Vimy in northern France, and then out to the Normandy coast to visit a lot of the different beaches that were a part of the D-Day invasion back in 1944. And we're also stopping at Dieppe, which was another sad but very important story of Canadian military history in World War II.
In the months leading up to the trip, each student was given an assignment to research a fallen Canadian soldier. Later, they would honor that soldier's gravesite with a personal tribute.
Each student had the chance to pick a soldier that they would like to research, and then from there, they have to try to figure out a way to find some information about them. So we had some students that were able to contact living relatives of their soldiers. We had legions in some of the communities that were able to provide information. Some students were surprised with how hard it was to find any information whatsoever about a person who sacrificed their life for us in World War II.
My soldier's name is Carl Norman Kajos. He's from Cadogan, Alberta. He fought with the Regina Rifles, 3rd Platoon. He was their commander in France in 1944. He died when his platoon was moving up through their entrenched position, and a fellow platoon was moving up a belt of 75 grenades that had been artillery hit earlier in the day. So they were moving them up to his position so that he could use them. Unfortunately, they laid them beside another fellow soldier, and as Carl was walking by this other fellow soldier, the belt of 75 grenades went off beside him, killing him and 7 others.
During the 10-day trip, students visited memorials, museums, and cemeteries. They walked on hallowed battlegrounds like World War I's Vimy Ridge in France. But the highlight for many was an emotional remembrance ceremony students held, accompanied by bagpipes, on Juno Beach.
When we recapped the trip with the students and they were talking about the most important parts of the trip or what they enjoyed the most, unanimously they were talking about this ceremony and paying tribute to their soldiers and how much that had affected them. A lot of them thought that it wouldn't have an emotional impact, or at least not as much of an emotional impact as it did, but it was tremendous to see how deeply they were connected to their soldiers and how much that ceremony meant to them.
Several days after their return, the students and teachers met again to talk about the trip and reflect on what they'd learned.
Oh, this was amazing. This is by far one of the coolest and best things that we've ever done with the school and in terms of learning and everything. I would recommend it to anybody in a heartbeat.
And it was an incredible experience. It's one I wouldn't trade for the world. I think it was life-changing, like the perspective it gave me.
All of us were experiencing a ton of different emotions. We got overwhelmed at the gravesite of our soldiers. We were in awe of how many gravesites there were. We went to a German gravesite and there was a mass grave, and it was a square full of bones and of like 24,000 men.
My soldier, his name was Melvin Lund. He was from Edmonton and he came down to Lethbridge with his fiancée afterwards. When we actually got to visit his gravesite, I started crying, of course. It was difficult in the sense that he no longer has any family to come visit him, and a lot of soldiers don't.
The highlight for me certainly was the time that we spent at Benet-sur-Mer, and the students had an opportunity to walk into the into the graveyard and find their soldier and spend some quiet moments with their soldier, really reflecting about, you know, what that soldier had done to really create the freedom that they now enjoy. And watching the students have that deep emotional experience was pretty special for me too.
This trip has an incredible emotional toll on everybody who goes. It doesn't matter if you're talking about the students or the chaperones or the teachers. You cannot go to some of these sites and not be moved by what you see. You walk in, you look at the tombstones of the soldiers, and you recognize how young they were and how many tombstones there are, and then you realize that this is not the only gravesite, and then it's gravesite upon gravesite, and it really puts it into perspective, the magnitude of the war.